Tonight's guest is Alexandre. Alexandre, welcome to the show.
Hey Vic, thanks so much for having me.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate your time. Alexandre, please give us a brief bio on yourself.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Alexandre or Alexandre here in Brazil. I am 25 years old. I live in the south of Brazil. I am a Spanish and Portuguese teacher. Right now I live in a little city here, also in my state. I like to draw, to listen to music. I write. I do most of the things are academical and turn it to art. And I guess this is it. I love dogs. I used to love to go outside. I love nature. I love a lot of things. And yeah, think of this.
For such a young guy, you sure do have your act together. You live a really good life.
Yeah, I think.
You do. I'm impressed. Alexandre, your encounter happened in Brazil. Now that you know dogmen are real, have you done any research to try to find out how widespread they are there?
Here in Brazil, we don't have the dogman word. We use the werewolf. So before I had my encounter and started to deal with the trauma and all the things, when I got access to the internet when I was 12 years old, I started to dig a lot of research about Bigfoot, werewolves, dogmen. I discovered cryptozoology. I was really into doing this, but I'm really afraid of birds and dogmen. So yeah, this was just an area of research. I wanted to go in the career, but I turned to a teacher just to stay away from this. I was a dream, but I didn't really wanted to go into the woods and do research about things. So yeah, I studied a lot after my 12 years old with the internet. And since then, almost every day I listen to podcasts, I research things. I used to watch a lot of werewolf movies. And after watching one movie, I need to stay for like 1 year having nightmares and don't sleep in well. But I watch it just to try to face this, to understand, to know other visions about werewolves or about dogmen. So yeah, it's something that I try to balance with my academic life and do research to know, to see more, to try to understand why this thing exists, where did it came from, what does it do. And yes, I research basically every day.
Considering how traumatic your encounter was, I can understand why you would have those nightmares, but I'm glad to hear that over the past few days, at least you're doing better now. Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, those last few days were way better.
Well, that's great news. That's what this is all about. From what I understand, there are legends there in Brazil about werewolves. What more can you tell us about them?
Oh yeah, here, as I say, it's not something that people actually take that serious. But since I was a child, I don't know, maybe 4 years old, I remember my grandma telling me stories. She actually had her dogman encounters, kind of. They talk about she and two of my other aunts, because my grandma had 6 girls. And there was one auntie that was with me during my dogman encounters. My mom and other aunt of mine also had a dogman or werewolf encounter when they were little. And yeah, the legends are really spread here. Here in the city where I live, I heard once about werewolf, is what they call. And yeah, people talk a lot, but it's more of a legend, more of a religious thing, not as some animal that actually exists, that had a real life. It's something like just in the full moon before Easter, this animal will appear to try to hunt people, to kill animals, to do a lot of things. The legends here are really interesting. The werewolf here is seen as a demonic thing or as a sanctified thing. There are this conflictuous relationship between people who saw werewolf as good and as bad. So yeah, it was really interesting. I know a lot about werewolves here in Brazil. I'm starting to research a lot about the hombre lobo. He's in Spanish because now I'm having contact with Spanish teacher. Yeah, so I know werewolf, dogman, hombre lobo. I'm trying to amplify my knowledge about all this kind of legends, and actually no legend, not a real legend, is something real, an animal, I guess.
Do you think it would have been better or worse if you knew definitively that it was a dogman and not a werewolf that you encountered?
I don't know, I think it would be better if it was a werewolf, because a werewolf just appear in the nighttime and in the full moon once in the week, and dogman probably would be watching me in the moments where I used to play in the woods with my cousins, and when I went to the rivers, or while I was playing with the dogs. And the werewolf, no, the werewolf would be just a normal man that once in a month would appear to do something. But no, if it was a werewolf, probably would be way better than a dogman.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. When you consider the reputation that werewolves have about being so dangerous and aggressive, maybe it would have been better to encounter a dogman. It's really hard to say.
Yeah.
Because of how traumatic your encounter was, you've had a lot of trouble dealing with it, obviously, since it happened when you were a kid. Has it gotten at least a little bit easier to deal with over the years, though?
Not easy. Sometimes it's really complicated because, as I told you when we first talked, yeah, I had nightmares. I actually still do nightmares. This week I had once. And as a kid, yeah, we are not so logical. I was a smart kid. I knew a lot of facts about werewolves and about the woods and about everything. But even after growing up, after doing going psychologist, because I was really traumatized. But sometimes it's easy. There are good days, there are bad days, there are awful days. So yeah, it all depends with my anxiety, with the time of the month. When it's full moon, I know the dogman's not really connected with the full moon, but when it's full moon, there's this whole era that makes things way worse. So yeah, the trauma is still here. The trauma have good days and bad days. And I know it's all a process, but this process seems to be going on and off, going forward. And I don't know. As I said, there are good days and bad days.
That's how it's going to be for quite some time. You are going to have good days and bad days still, but as time does go by and you practice those 7 magic words I told you about, I think this will get a lot easier for you, so please remember that. Before we move on, if you've had a dogman encounter of your own and would like to speak with me about it, whether in private or on the show, either way is fine, please go to dogmanencounters.com and submit a report. I'd love to hear from you. Also, you should know I've got a new Bigfoot show I'm producing. It's called My Bigfoot Sighting, and I put a link for it in the description for tonight's show. You really should check it out. If you listen, you'll see that it's a different kind of Bigfoot show, and I think you'll like it. All right, Alexander, please tell us about your encounter now. Give us every last detail that comes to mind.
Well, my encounter happened around 2003 or 4. I was 7, almost 8 years old, and I have a lot of cousins, but this cousin, we are best friends till now, and we were more close because of the age difference. Was a few months of difference. And after my mom got divorced, we went to live with my grandma in the city, more close to the city, and we were just good friends, me and my cousin. We spent the week together because we went to the same school. And during the weekends, one of my aunties lived, she still today live in the countryside. It's really far from the city. And almost every weekend, she and my uncle used to go to the city to buy groceries, to buy food to the animals. And when they were coming back home, they used to go to my grandma's place to catch me and my cousin, so we could go to her home. We loved to spend the weekends there. They had a lot of animals. They had cows, they had chickens, they had pigs, dogs, cats, every animal. And I was always an animal lover. My cousin too. We loved to go to a river that they had in the property. We loved to play in the woods, to play with the animals, to play with my uncle. He was teaching us how to play cards because he loved to play cards and he didn't have someone to play. And every weekend we go there. My auntie worked in the school and she brought books to us. She was always reading to us, encouraging us to read a lot. So we did have a good time with them. And that weekend specifically, my uncle went to the city, bought groceries, bought the food, and picked us up my grandma's place. So we went there. Back in that time, we already knew a little bit about this. There was some kind of animal that was attacking other animals, the livestock on the neighborhood there. My uncle lives something around 15 kilometers from the nearest highway. Is the village where they live is way far from the city, and the closest highway is already far. So it took us something almost 1 hour trip to get to the place, to the highway, where we would enter and go for more kilometers till we get to her place. So it was really far, really deep in the countryside. Yeah, we went there. We knew about this animal that was killing and attacking other animals. So that weekend and the other weeks that we were going there before this, we were not allowed to go to the river, to go catch fruits in the woods because they had a lot of fruit trees. But yeah, the place, the area where we were allowed to play was huge. The cows were around, the dogs were always around. So we didn't mind a lot not being able to go to the woods, to go to the river. But things were a little weird. The cows, usually during the daytime, they let them go to eat in the property, to go basically into the woods. They used to go near to the river. The river was around 5 kilometers, I think, from the house, from the barn. And in those last weeks, the cows were just not going into the woods. They were staying near to the fences, really some kind of far from the wood line. But yeah, they didn't force them to go there because there was food around, there was grass around the house, and it's better not to force an animal that can give you milk to be stressed. So yeah, we play with the cows, we play with the dogs, we played cards with my uncle during the daytime, during the nighttime, everything. So it was a good day. It was a good end of Friday, and till the nighttime. We did the usual. We had dinner. We watched TV. We played more cards with my uncle. We did have a thing with the cards. We learned, and we were liking this. But yeah, we did everything. We prayed because I am from a Catholic family. And we read a little bit. Yeah, it was time to sleep. We always slept early, around 10, 11 p.m. was already too late to sleep because they need to wake up around 5, 6 a.m. to milk the cows, to feed the animals. So yeah, we went to sleep. So just so you know, the house was not a big house, it was a wooden house. There was the kitchen with the living room together. There was a bathroom, my uncle's room, and a back room, way in the back of the house. The room was really small. There was just a bed and a wardrobe and a big window, and the door, of course. So me and my cousin slept there. There was just one bed, so we slept together. And we were kids. There was no problem with the space, so we slept together. And the bed was facing the window. Till this day, the house is almost the same thing. Now the house is not wood anymore. But we went to sleep as usual. and we never had problems. Just the normal dogs barking at night from fox and other things, small things. And in that night, I think it was around 1 p.m. 1 a.m. Sorry, because I had slept a little already. And when you wake up with that feeling, something like after you had a nightmare, when you wake with that heavy feeling on your chest, and I just woke and I started to hear those, it's kind of a silent noise. It was a heavy walking, but it was not making the same sound that a cow could do. And the cows were all in the barn already. So I started to hear this, and then there was some kind of half breathing near to the window. And, it's a wooden house, so we actually can hear a lot of things from the outside. And there was this thing walking near to the window, doing those almost silent steps, and started to do the half breathing. So all of a sudden, the dogs went crazy. Some of the dogs started barking. I think the dogs were on the other side of the house, but they heard that. And the house was built over an open basement. I mean, it was just a high house. And the dogs went under the basement and were barking a little bit, seemed to be a little scared. And then this shadow appeared after the heavy breathing. I mean, those few seconds of just hearing something coming near to the house and rubbing the body against one of the sides of the house. And that dark shadow just appeared in front of the window. And there wasn't a full moon, it wasn't a clear night, nothing like that, but I could see the silhouette of a huge head, large shoulders. And I mean, the house was already 1 meter over the ground, and the window would have something like 2 meters height. And I saw that huge thing, and it was staring at us because the window was in front of the bed. And I just saw those large, furry shoulders, the big head, the tall ears, really pointed tall ears. And the thing was just breathing in front of the window. There wasn't the smoke because we were near to the summer, so it was a hot night. Thank God we were not with the window open. And the thing was just there in front of the window, breathing. Woke my cousin up. He kind of saw that, and we started to scream, to cry. We went out of the bed. We go out of the room screaming, and I heard till this day, before I sleep, I heard this half breathing. His half breathing is something that just stay in the back of my mind. I hear till this day this half breathing, and the animal just did a knock with the claws in the window. When you hear someone knocking in the glass, that noise was just way more pointed. So after we started to run out of the room, and I remember this, even screaming, I remember the knocking in the glass window, and we started to scream inside of the room. So my uncles were already, I think, getting out of the room, and we met them in the halfway, and they didn't went to the room, to our room, to see what happened, because this thing just started to run around the house, and the dogs were under the basement. So the dogs were afraid. The animals started to make sounds, to make noises. The cows were mooing. The dogs were doing the low bark with a little crying, but under the house. And yeah, the dogs were big dogs, were supposed to be protecting the house from animals, from people, but they were under the house, totally covered, poor things. And the animal, this thing, started to run around the house, and doing little throws of the body. I mean, as I talked to you, Vic, if this thing wanted to, bring the house down or shatter some window, it could have done. But it was just running around and rubbing the body, doing little bangs in the house, and it's a wooden house, so everything is way louder than it would be. And after doing, I think it was 3 runnings around the house, it just went. We ran to the living room, and the door wasn't a normal door with a normal lock. It was just a piece of wood. And the lock was just another wood in front. So yeah, they didn't have a key or anything. So yeah, it was not a strong door. And after doing these runs, the animal knocked the door 3 times with the head. And, it was just a human knock, because, humans do have the fingers, have the bones, and was the same sound that a human knock into the door would do. So yeah, that's the other thing that stays in my mind till this day. I'm not saying that when people knock the door, I go crazy, but it's some kind of a trigger to this, because it was weird to know that shadow that I saw in front of the window was knocking the door. So yeah, it was a bipedal animal. It was furry. It had long ears and was an animal knocking the front door of the house. My uncle was not the big man of the house. The big man of the house was my auntie. She had a gun. I don't know what kind of gun it was, but it was the guns with 2 holes in the front, a big one, I think shotgun, something like that. And actually, she wanted to go outside because they thought it was a person, but my uncle didn't let her. I think she was just courageous, but she never went outside and did anything crazy because she was a little bit controlled. But yeah, anyway, the animal knocked the door. The dogs were under the basement. The dogs couldn't do anything. I guess if the dogs attacked, they would be killed. All of the 8 dogs, the big dogs. And the barn where the cows stay, it exists till today, was something around 300 meters, I think, from the house. And back at that time, my uncles had around 12 cows and one bull, one big bull, something like a reproductive thing that my uncle was raising. And the barn, that time there was 3 cows with babies, and they stayed in a separate part, the 3 together with the 3 babies. And since my uncles were not selling milk or anything, they kept the babies with the moms during the nighttime. So they could drink milk whenever they needed. And after this animal, this Dogman, doing the runs around the house, knocking the glass windows and doing a knock in the door as a human would do, it just ran through to the barn where the cows were and broken. I think it just threw the body and put the door down, and the cows went crazy. We heard the cows moving. We heard the bull. I think he was banging the head with the horns. The cows started to move. The bull was banging the head against the walls because he was separated from the females in front of the females with babies. And this Dogman just entered the barn. The wood was nothing to him. And the cows were just so crazy that they killed. The 3 babies were killed. It was not the Dogman who killed them. Their own mothers killed them, kicking. The cows were crazy. I don't know what kind of feeling this animal would bring to them that was so strong that make their own mothers don't mind the babies, because the 3 babies were killed by them. There was kicking. The cows were kicking. The pigs were a little far from the house, but we were hearing them. There was only female pigs, no babies, but the pigs were crazy. The chickens were crazy. The dogs were under the house, just yapping and doing little barks. And it was everything really fast. We were hearing all this cacophony of animal sounds. The bull was crazy. I think the male, I don't know, maybe protective or maybe more violent than the female cows. And all of a sudden was just a silence of the bull. The cows were still moving, and the other animals also. It was everything really fast. The cows were still moving. The other animals was doing their noises, but the male bull that had that heavy voice, the heavy sound, it just stopped. And so it was weird to stop hearing the bull. There was the louder sound, and we heard a bang noise, not a bang. When you bring something really heavy to the ground, was the boom in the ground. And this Dogman, I don't know how it did this, but it killed the bull inside of the enclosure inside of the barn, and dragged the bull over the enclosure, over the gate, over the restricted area, the wood, and dragged over the gate, and was starting to dragging this huge bull. I don't know how much a bull weighed, but I mean it's really heavy, and was dragging the bull to the middle of the property, close to the house. So yeah, it was this huge animal bringing even bigger animal really close to us. My auntie was going crazy. She wanted to go outside. She wanted to shot this Dogman, because I mean, back then, having a bull, having animals to create was something to make money off. Was their money, and of course she was crazy about it. A bull is a really expensive animal. Nowadays it's even more, I guess. But my uncle never let her go outside, because I mean, if that Dogman wanted to kill the four of us, he would have killed, but it was just giving us a freak show. And so yeah, we stay inside, and after the Dogman dragged the bull close to the house, we started to hear that chomping noise. You know, when you break the bone of some meat, you hear that smashing sound of bones. And this Dogman was he started to eating the bull near to the house, you know, just so we could hear him doing some moanings, he was growling, he was, I mean, chewing bones, chewing meat. You know, when you hear that wet sound of meat being pressed, meat being ripped off. And the Dogman was just giving us a little show there. And so yeah, I was really afraid. We were crying. My aunt and my uncle were not crying, but they were talking there. My uncle was trying to calm down my auntie, and we were crying, but all of the sounds were audible, because I still, till this day, I can hear in my mind the chickens, the pigs, the cows, my uncles arguing, my cousin crying. I can hear my own crying, and was everything so crazy. And hear the chewing noise outside, and the animal was just eating. Not in plain sight, because the windows were not as clear, and it was nighttime. But yeah, we could see we knew this animal was there. I mean, over the bull, eating it, just so we knew what he was doing. And then we started to hear some barkings, more barkings. And I don't know, they have a neighbor that is around 2 or 3 kilometers from the house. And I think the dogs from the neighborhood, I don't know why they came to my uncle's house. And I think there was something around 8 or 9 dogs coming, and they were barking and doing howlings. And then this moment, I think when my when the dogs of my uncles heard the backup coming, they got a little more courage, and they started to barking, not with so much fear, but barking with a little more attitude. And I mean, there will probably be around 15 dogs right now coming to the with the dogs of my uncles and the dogs from the neighbors coming to the place. And then started the barking, the howling. And I mean, the dogman was just unbothered. He ate a bit of the bull, and he just, I mean, stand up and ran. He was like, okay, I think this is something that could have gone through his mind. Okay, they are afraid. The dogs are coming to bother me. Now I'm gonna leave. And he just ran to the wood line. I mean, he probably jumped off the fence if he could, if this thing could, I mean, take down a door. He could obviously jump off their fence and just went to the woods and disappeared. So my auntie still wanted to go outside now that we thought that this animal have gone, but the dogs didn't went to catch him. The dogs were just the property near to the fence. They ran a little, and there was a little bit of a dog fight. They were not fighting with the dogman, but the dogs didn't went to catch him. They just appeared. I mean, I'm sure they didn't scare the dogman. They just made a lot of noise, and maybe he thought, oh, more people could come. I don't know. And he just ran away. He just came back to the woods where he was probably watching during the whole day. So we stay awake. No neighbors came back. Just the dogs stay there, and we stay awake. Of course, crying. My auntie made us pray a little bit after this when the noise stopped, and it was around 5 or 6 a.m. This is the time when they usually are already awake and going to milk the cows. When the sun started to appear, because it was summer, the sun came a little early, and my uncles went outside. We had to stay inside, but it was clear day. And the bull was near to the house. We could not see clearly, but they say that this animal just ripped off the neck, run under the chin to the middle of the chest, just ripped off. I mean, broke bones, chew meat. There was pieces of meat, chunks of meat. There was pieces of bone. There was blood. The dogs were licking the blood in the ground, and the bull was just there, killed, dead, eat it. There was, I mean, it was just this. This dogman didn't wanted to do, I mean, a meal, a complete meal. I think he just did that to cause an impression. Because if he left the bull, if he wanted, probably could have killed all the dogs that appear and eat them also. But he just ate little pieces of the bull and left the bull there in the middle of the property. I mean, to everybody see. And after that, we felt a little safe because it was daytime. It was starting to get daytime, and my uncle went to call some neighbors because everyone's awake in this time of the morning. And some neighbors came. I mean, I think like other 3 or 5 men, because one go to pick the other. So those men came, those neighbors saw everything that happened, saw the bull, saw the barn door on the ground. They saw the baby kills. The 3 babies were kicked. I mean, one of them had the head kind of smashed by the kicks of one of the mothers. And my uncle took us back to the city in the morning because we were not going to stay there. We were crying a lot, and they didn't thought it would be safe for us to stay there. And so we went back to the city. And after that, the things kept being weird there. Everyone was afraid. I mean, people were already afraid because my auntie lives. There is, I mean, two or three other houses before my auntie's house, and these other houses, other animals have been killed. I mean, this dogman killed sheep, killed chickens, had killed a dog, also had killed a horse, but never some show like that. It just went to the houses, just killed, ate some, and just disappeared again. So we went back to the city, and we knew that after that, I mean, it was something around once a week it would be appear, or an animal will appear dead, and it kept killing for a while. It killed. Back then, some people were creating boars, wild boars, and this dogman killed a male boar. You know, those with the big teeth, and I mean, kill it, kill other horse, I guess, kill more cows, kill a lot of chickens, and the things stayed that way for a while, and then the dogman just disappeared. I mean, I don't know if it got bored or if it was just passing by the area. It just disappeared in that village, in that community. In another city, we knew almost 1 year later that animals were appearing dead. But I mean, it was 2003 or 4. There wasn't internet. We just had the newspaper, and I mean, even being countryside, my city being small, it was not a huge thing to animals being killed. So it just disappeared. We just never heard of any attack. And people was when they asked to my uncles what was, because they saw it. I don't think they saw as clear as we saw, but they saw a huge animal. I mean, eating the bull there and dragging the bull outside of the barn. And I mean, I live in Brazil. In Brazil, we don't have large predators. I mean, we don't have wolves. We don't have big cats. Also, I mean, the biggest cat that there's around would be something like a bobcat. So it's not that big. You could in the max kill a chicken or maybe a baby sheep, but never a cow. So yeah, what kind of predator could have done that? People say that there was a circus around, and the circus had a lion. The lion could have escaped and been around the woods. But again, I don't think a lion would do that, and I know a lion don't stay in two legs. So yeah, that's my Dogman encounters that haunt me till this day, and I see it clear as day, even though it was night. The shadow, the silhouette. I never saw glowing eyes, but I know those eyes were looking at us because, you know, it was in front of us, and there was the shadow, the large shoulders, the big head, the pointed ears. It was definitely dog-like traces, so it couldn't be feline or something like that.
It's a lot to process, I know. How would you describe that dogman's leg structure?
Well, for what I could see and what he did and the way he did, it would be something like more of a dog leg, but way stronger because the ankles seemed to be more chunky, and it was kind of hunched down over the bull. And I don't know, it's not when a human hunched down, the knees go front. It seems that it was pointed back, so really dog-like, but no thin legs. The legs were huge also, I mean, strong legs. So definitely more dog-like, I guess. I mean, I never saw it really up in front of us when he was in front of the window. I just saw chest up or belly up. But when it was eating the bull, it was hunched down. Seems to be like dog-like legs, and the way you run like a dog, but in two legs.
So he had dog-like legs, I see.
Yeah.
How big would you say he was?
In meters would be something around 2.5 meters to 60, 70. I don't know. It was really big because as I said, the house was already 1 meter over the ground, and the window was really high. The window was high. It was a big window, not that big, but the window was high from the ground. So yeah, probably 2.5 to 70 meters of height. It was definitely big, way bigger than my uncle. My uncle is 195, I guess. Yeah, something meters. He's a big guy, and this thing was taller and more chunky, more large also.
Well, if he was 2.5 meters or close to 2.5 meters tall, that means he was well over 8 feet tall. So, yeah, that's a pretty good sized one. Alexandre, there are people out there who believe Dogman eyewitnesses are just confused about what they saw. These people believe that what you saw was either a Sasquatch or a man who was in a really good costume, a costume that happened to be a little over 8 feet tall. Sasquatch, for one, don't have pointed ears on their head like a dog. They also don't have hocks and stifle joints instead of ankles and knees. So if you're sure what you saw had those features, it couldn't have been a Sasquatch. Now, if it was a man in an expensive costume, somehow he was magically strong enough to be able to drag your uncle's 1.5-year-old full-grown bull that he killed with his own bare hands over that gate. He was strong enough to drag that big bull out of the barn and out into the open also, where you could see him start to eat it. What are your thoughts on that? Were you just fooled by some huge man in an 8+ foot tall costume who somehow happened to be able to fit his hominid-style legs into a digitigrade-style leg costume, and also he happened to be 5 times stronger than any man who's ever lived? What are your thoughts on that? Were you just fooled, or did you actually see a Dogman?
Well, if that was a man, he could be probably getting some medals, some gold medals from Brazil in the Olympics or everything. But no, if it was someone, some people, some man, this man would be animalistic, really strong. And I mean, back then, people, especially people living in the countryside, I mean, most of the people there didn't know what is a costume, how to do anything like that. So if it was a man doing this, if it was a man dragging the bull, if it was a man with money enough to do such a beautiful, not really beautiful, but some well-done costume that not even Hollywood is able to do sometimes, because there are werewolf movies that are really bad. And I mean, if it was a man, it was probably a crazy man with a lot of money. So yeah, it wasn't a man. It was an animal. It was a dogman. And I never heard about Sasquatch here in Brazil. So, and I know Sasquatch doesn't have this bad aura the dogmen have. And a dogman is not a dog. A Sasquatch is not a dog, sorry. And I'm pretty sure now I'm sure that it was a dogman, because no man can do this. I mean, when my uncle needs to kill some cow or some animal, they do need other 5 or 6 people to do this, to lift the animal, to do every single step of the killing. So one man alone killing a bull, a violent bull, because the bull was banging the bull. Male bulls tend to be more violent. So yeah, this allegedly strong man wearing an expensive costume was able to kill by himself a bull and dragging and eating raw meat in front of us, in front of children. I mean, there's no way I could believe this.
Oh, of course. Yeah, you saw what you saw, and you saw a dogman. That's all there is to it. And I believe you. I do believe you. When the dogman came to your window that night and started to rub against the house, why do you think it did that?
I don't know. After talking to you, you said it was something that they expect to have a reaction. And yeah, it seems like this because, he wouldn't be rubbing the body to make us, it was a heavy body. We could hear the heavy rubbing. He wouldn't be knocking the window just to wake us up and, oh, I just want you awake to kill you. No, it didn't kill us. It didn't attack us. It was just making noise like, look at me. I don't want to kill the animal without you being awake. So it was that intelligent to wake us up in a scary way, to create the eerie feeling, that eerie aura around us. So yes, he was just trying to get us to know what he was doing, to keep up with him, so we know, oh, he's circling the house, he's knocking the doors, he's tapping the window. Oh, now he's gonna kill the bull. He was just intelligent animal that wanted us to see what he was able to do, just to show this.
That's right. That's exactly right. It was just done for your benefit. Like we talked about the first time we spoke, he could have killed the bull in the barn, left it in the barn, ate it in the barn, but he didn't do that. He drug it over that gate, out into the open that night, where y'all could see him eating it for a reason, just to shake you up that much more. So it's very important that you don't lose sight of that fact. Did you ever find out if your uncle heard it rubbing against the house that night?
No, I never, we never talked a lot about this. They probably heard because, we screamed, they probably woke up with us screaming. But after that, the animal were running around the house, was banging the body. And they probably heard that also. But we never openly talk about this. We were children. They would not tell us about what they heard or what they saw, what they did. My cousin remembers, he said that he remembered hearing some noises before being really awake. But we talked once or twice about this. He's also really close about this moment. The whole family is close about this because, religious family, we try not to talk about these things that they think are demonic or anything not godlike. But probably they heard and they know what they saw, they know what they heard. They heard the bull being killed, they heard the bangs around the house. We felt the house kind of shaking because, a wooden house, the walls shaked. So yeah, probably they heard that before, and then just what probably have stayed with them was the house almost falling over us.
That really sounds like a horror show to me. I hate the fact that you had to experience something like that. That's awful. You told me the first time we spoke that there wasn't any grass around your uncle's house. Did you find any footprints in the dirt out there the next day?
No, we didn't left the house for to search for anything. I think the guys, the men, probably went to the woods, but they never told about footprints. Probably there was because, the dogman was eating the bull over a pond of blood. So yeah, probably there was some trace, but they never talked to us about this. They never say, oh, we saw footprints, we saw dog-like prints. And they just kept this really close because they took us home a few hours later that they left the house. So they never went to details about this.
Well, with you being a kid back then, it only makes sense that they wouldn't go into detail about that. So yeah, I'm not surprised.
More details than we already had by what we saw. We didn't saw much in the daylight. We just, with a quick glance, just saw the body of the bull way a little far because they were already moving the bull. And there was 4 men with a vehicle, a tractor, trying to take the bull from there. So again, 4 people with a vehicle just to drag one bull, and we just saw a quick glance of this.
Yeah, sounds like that bull wasn't exactly a calf that could be picked up by a strong man. Yeah. That's for sure if it took that much work. At the start of the show, you told us that your mom had an encounter of her own. What did she tell you about her experience?
Yeah, my family, as I said, they always told us about werewolves, ghost stories. What scares me the most, we heard the story 3 or 4 times in our lives, and was my mother, my grandma, my grandpa was together, but he has died now, and other auntie, not the auntie that was with me in my Dogman encounters, but my other. I have 5. So, I think my mom was around 12 or 13. This other auntie was a little bit older, and my grandma was pregnant. Back then, 1970, I guess. There was a lot of woods back then. Where they live now is city nowadays, but when they moved there was a lot of wood. And here in Brazil, there's this thing. People say that Dogman werewolf do have long ears, pointed ears, and they say that when someone claps outside of the house or near to you at nighttime, it's because he's shaking the head and clapping the ears. So they were coming back. I don't know what they were doing. If they went to visit someone, they were coming back home. In the middle of the woods, the trees, there wasn't highways or anything like that. And also there was few houses. And when they were coming back, there was my grandpa, my grandma, and my mom and my auntie was on the front of the line. And in the back of them, they started to hear the clapping noises. Someone started to clap in the middle of the night, in the middle of the woods, in that trail. And they all tell us with the same level of details and with the same shaking in the voice. They never saw anything. They never saw a dogman, but they say they know what it is because of this legend, because of this trace that the werewolves have here in Brazil. So my grandpa say, don't look back, just keep walking. And the thing started to run on the side of them, and at some point it came back, and he kind of jumped on the back of them. He jumped from one side to another, clapping. Not clapping the hands, but doing the clapping noise. And they say there was a heavy animal running around, and they were surrounded by woods. And right, there wasn't houses, nothing like urban. And this animal just kept clapping and running around and doing noises and breaking benches and banging in the trees, till the moment they got to the place where they live. Back then, there was just a little fence and a little wooden house also. And when they get inside of the house, the dogs went barking, and that thing kept clapping in front of the house. They couldn't see anything because there was tall grass around, and the little street in front of the house was nothing modern, was just ground and rocks. And that thing kept clapping in front of the house for 10 or 15 minutes, and then disappeared. And that was the Dogman encounter that they kind of have. It was just this huge animal running around them and doing clap noises. Because, when the dogs shake their head, if they do have big ears, the ears do the clap, 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 clap sound. And that was the sound. They say it seems like a human clapping their hands. But, if it had to be a really big human to do the noises that they tell it did.
There is a possibility it just needed a good frontline application, but I'm pretty sure it was making that clapping sound with its ears or however else it was doing that to shake them up. That sure was a rough experience they had, though.
Yeah, they were a little older than I am. And as I say, they say it's a werewolf because of this trace that it had. And we heard claps during nighttime. Here where I live, also sometimes there are claps, but I don't know. I'm not saying that I don't believe them. They do tell the story with the same aspects, but I try to keep this out of my mind because, I already saw something. I don't want to think that someone clapping in front of the house is also a werewolf or a dogman.
Yeah, that's awfully creepy. No one should have to experience anything like that. But having said that, Alexander, it's about time for us to get out of here. But before we do you have any closing comments you'd like to share?
I just want to thank you again, Vic, for everything you have been done to me, for the talking, because here in Brazil, as I say, we don't have the Dogman culture. People don't do research about. People tend not to share things that scare them. And I just want to say that it's been really important to be heard and to be part of a community because, I had psychological problems. I had anxiety. I had depression caused by this. I was a kid. I was really afraid. I lost many holidays. Christmas, New Year's, because after 4 or 5 p.m., if it was winter time, 5 p.m. was already dark. I didn't go outside. I always thought, oh my God, if I go outside to watch the fireworks, Dogman will come into my family and kill everyone and kill me and do everything. And yeah, it's really important to be heard for someone, to be believed for someone, because growing up, my family tried not to talk about that. They just made me go to church. For a while, helped a little, but after I saw that they were just pray, just pray, and not believe in this, just saying, oh, you need to take this out of your body, out of your mind. And they know what happened. My uncle and my auntie told them, but it's something that they try to let it go, just try not to believe this. Even they having their own encounters, their own experiences with things related to Dogman. So yeah, I just want to say thank you for the space, for the talk, for everything, for the work that you do, because it's really important. And I know you help a lot of people and you're helping me. As you said, the things that you told me to do when I'm afraid are starting to help me, even though there are a few days that we first talk, but those words really helped me. And even with my constant nightmares, it's something that seems to be in the future would be something way easier to do now after I talk to you.
Well, I can't tell you how happy I am to hear that you're getting better. That's great. That's what this is all about. Well, Alexandre, I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing the details of that encounter with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Vic. I appreciate the space you gave me. And just one last thing for people who maybe are hearing, just try to believe. I don't blame my family for not believing or for not giving me space. You just try to believe. I know it's hard. I know people who never saw or people who just research. It's hard to think that there's an animal with that intelligence, but I'm pretty sure they did exist. They exist till now, and they will still existing. And just try to believe when someone tell you, because I have been laughed enough, have been joked enough to know how hurts to not being believed and how hurts to see this thing. And I don't wish to anyone to see this. And just believe and try to help people who had these encounters or maybe have had and are having problem with this. But again, thank you, Vic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks again so much. Have a great night.